All right, let's be honest, politics ain't for the faint of heart. It's a tough game full of backstabbing, power grabs, and enough drama to make a reality show blush. And nobody understood this better than Niccolo Machiavelli. In the 1500s, he wrote the ultimate playbook for leaders, The Prince. The Prince isn't a feel-good story about sunshine and rainbows. It's raw, cynical, and throws ethics out the window. Machiavelli's main concern, power, how to get it, keep it, and wield it like a boss. If politics is chess, The Prince is the rule book, showing how to win by any means. Machiavelli wasn't evil, just a realist, observing the brutal political landscape. So buckle up, we're diving into The Prince and its controversial lessons on leadership. Let's cut to the chase. Machiavelli wasn't interested in fairy tales about noble rulers and happy subjects. He saw the world as it was. A chaotic mess where power was the only currency that mattered. And to survive in this game of thrones, leaders couldn't afford to be saints. Forget about being loved by the masses, Machiavelli argued. Sure, it's nice to be popular, but when push comes to shove, fear is a much more reliable weapon. Why? Because people are inherently self-interested. They'll turn on a dime if it benefits them, even if it means betraying someone they once adored. Fear, on the other hand, keeps them in line. It's the ultimate motivator. Now, this doesn't mean turning into a tyrannical monster. Machiavelli understood that cruelty for cruelty's sake is stupid and counterproductive, but he also knew that sometimes you've got to play hardball to maintain order and achieve your goals. Remember that whole ends justify the means thing? Yeah, Machiavelli basically wrote the book on it. Imagine you're a brand new CEO taking over a company that's been run the same way for decades. You've got big ideas, but also a whole lot of employees who are resistant to change. Or maybe you're a general conquering a new land. How do you establish your authority and ensure a smooth transition of power? Machiavelli lays out 3 key strategies in The Prince: destroy, relocate, or delegate. 1. Destruction. This is the nuclear option reserved for situations where you must wipe the slate clean. It means dismantling old power structures and starting from scratch. 2. Proximity. Get up close and personal, live among the people to build relationships and understand local customs. 3. Delegation. Let loyal deputies handle the work. Choose wisely to avoid rebellion. Okay, let's address the elephant in the room, Machiavelli's infamous stance on fear versus love. It's the part of The Prince that makes people squirm, and for good reason. It seems counterintuitive, right? Shouldn't a good leader be loved by their people? Wouldn't that make them more likely to follow and obey? Well, Machiavelli argues that love is a fickle mistress. People are easily swayed by emotions, and their affections can be fleeting. Today they're showering you with roses, tomorrow they're sharpening the pitchforks. Fear, on the other hand, is a much more stable emotion. It's rooted in self-preservation, and that's a powerful motivator. Think about it this way. You're more likely to follow traffic laws because you're afraid of getting a ticket or, God forbid, getting into an accident, right? Not because you're head over heels in love with the idea of traffic regulations. Now, this doesn't mean you should strive to be a tyrant. Machiavelli wasn't advocating for cruelty or oppression. He was simply acknowledging a fundamental truth about human nature. We are more likely to do what we're told when there are consequences for disobedience. Section 5, The Lion and the Fox. 2 sides of effective rule. Picture this, a ruler who's all roar and no bite. They might look intimidating, but without the cunning to back it up, they're eventually going to get played. On the flip side, a leader who's all slyness and no strength will get eaten alive in a power struggle. This is where Machiavelli's famous metaphor of the lion and the fox comes in. He argued that an effective leader needs to embody both animals' qualities. They need the lion's courage and decisiveness to command respect and deal with threats head-on. But they also need the fox's cunning, adaptability, and willingness to bend the rules when necessary. Think of it like this. The lion might win in a straight fight, but the fox knows how to avoid a fight altogether. Or better yet, rig the game in their favor. And sometimes survival depends not on brute force, but on outsmarting your opponents. The key is balance. Too much lion and you become a tyrant. Too much fox and you're seen as weak and untrustworthy. A truly effective leader knows when to roar and when to play it cool, when to stand their ground and when to be as slippery as an eel. Section 6. Morality? What morality? The prince's cynical take. Now here's where Machiavelli really ruffles some feathers. See, he wasn't too concerned with conventional morality, especially when it came to politics. He argued that the ends justify the means, and sometimes achieving great things requires getting your hands dirty. This doesn't mean he endorsed being an outright villain, but he understood that leaders often face impossible choices where there's no good option. In those situations, he argued, it's better to be pragmatic than righteous. Imagine a leader facing a famine. They have the option of seizing grain from wealthy landowners to feed the starving masses. Is it moral to take someone's property? Not really. But is it the right thing to do if it prevents widespread suffering and chaos? That's a much tougher question. Machiavelli's point wasn't to encourage ruthlessness for its own sake. It was to remind us that the real world is messy, and sometimes doing what's right isn't always straightforward. Section 7. The mercenary trap. Don't rely on hired guns. Now let's talk about mercenaries. Imagine you're a leader who needs a little extra muscle, so you hire a bunch of guns for hire. They're tough, they're experienced, and they'll do your bidding. For a price. Sounds convenient, right? Well, Machiavelli saw right through this seemingly easy solution. He argued that relying on mercenaries is a recipe for disaster. Why? Because their loyalty is for sale, not earned. They don't care about your cause, only their paycheck. And the moment a better offer comes along, they'll ditch you faster than a politician ditches a campaign promise. Think of it like this. Would you trust someone to protect your family if you knew they were only there for the money? What happens when a bigger threat shows up, one with deeper pockets? Machiavelli believed that true strength comes from within. A leader should build their own army, composed of citizens who are loyal and invested in their rule. Sure, it takes more time and effort, but it's a much safer bet in the long run. Section 8. Fortune favors. The bold luck, timing, and skill. Okay, so far we've talked about strategy, cunning, and ruthlessness, but even the most skilled politician can't control everything. Sometimes you need a little bit of luck on your side. That's where Machiavelli's concept of fortuna comes in. Think of fortuna as the wild card, the unpredictable hand of fate that can make or break even the best-laid plans. It's the sudden economic downturn, the unexpected scandal, the natural disaster that throws everything into chaos. But here's the thing, Machiavelli didn't believe in simply surrendering to fate. He believed that while you can't control fortuna, you can prepare for it, anticipate it, and even use it to your advantage. This is where virtue comes in. Virtue is often translated as virtue, but for Machiavelli it had a broader meaning. It encompassed qualities like skill, boldness, decisiveness, and adaptability. The ability to make quick decisions and seize opportunities when they arise. In other words, while luck might deal you a good hand, it's up to you to play it well. A leader with virtue can take a stroke of bad fortune and turn it into an advantage, or at least minimize the damage. Section 9. A timeless blueprint, Machiavelli's enduring wisdom. So we've covered a lot of ground, from fear and foxes to mercenaries and the fickle whims of fortune. But what's the takeaway from all of this? Is Machiavelli still relevant in today's world? The answer is a resounding yes. While the political landscape has changed dramatically since the 16th century, the fundamental truths about power, ambition, and human nature remain the same. Machiavelli's work continues to resonate because it offers timeless insights into the nature of leadership. It reminds us that the road to power is rarely paved with good intentions, that tough choices are inevitable, and that sometimes you have to play the game to change the rules. Now, this doesn't mean we should all embrace our inner Machiavelli and start manipulating everyone in our path. But it does mean understanding the realities of power dynamics, recognizing the strategies at play, and developing the skills to navigate complex situations with both cunning and integrity. Section 10, your turn. Dive into the prince. Look, I get it. Reading a dense political treatise from the 1500s might not be your idea of a good time. But trust me on this one, is more than just a historical artifact. It's a thought-provoking, often unsettling, but ultimately insightful exploration of power and leadership. So do yourself a favor and give it a read. You might be surprised by how relevant it still feels, how it makes you question your own assumptions about power and how it sheds light on the machinations of the world around us. And hey, once you're done, let's talk. What lessons resonated with you? Did Machiavelli change your perspective on leadership? Hit me up on Twitter and let's discuss.